Conscious Solutions, and we're doing another video session. And today I'm really pleased to be joined by Neil Hollands from Concert Networks. Neil, would you just like to introduce the business for our listeners?
Yes, thank you, David. Yeah, so Concert Networks, we provide customer contact technology and internet connectivity to help our customers become better connected. And we promote that on a risk-free basis. So what we mean by risk-free is that all the systems we provide, we look to make sure they're having a genuine impact on our customers' business performance. And if it transpires that they're not, then you don't pay for that part of the service. So when we talk about impacts, we're typically looking at how we can help customers improve their customer experience, improve productivity or drive some efficiency. We've been working actively within the legal space, as you know, for, I don't know, probably at least 10 years, something like that, something along those lines. So,
how many law firms do you work with nowadays?
I'd say we've probably got 20, 25 legal firms that we're working actively with right now. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So when we first set this up, when, obviously we're 12 weeks into lockdown, what's the biggest impact you've seen so far with the whole current crisis of COVID-19 on law firms' communication systems and the ease with which they managed to convert to a predominantly working from home model?
So I think with our customers that we've been working with for a while, it's been relatively simple in terms of the services we provide to get them all working from home, where they've got people working from home. As an aside, there's been a lot of activity around getting costs down through people who are furloughed and providing what we've termed a furlough license, which essentially puts everything running and working and ready to go live when they come off furlough, but without the full cost of the license, and therefore without the rigmarole and time delay involved if they were just to turn it off and turn it back on, which for us...
So most of the clients you're working with, this is cloud-based telephony, is it, I'm assuming, rather than...
Yeah, so it's cloud-based. So at the most basic level, it can be cloud-based telephone systems. So purely call handling, call making, call answering. We've got a number of them who are doing a bit more sophisticated call routing with contact center type style solutions, which those seem to have since the challenges of COVID-19 have seemed to have been less for them because they've already used to working in disparate locations, albeit now they're no longer working in disparate offices or working in disparate households, but they're still managing to centrally control all the internal inbound communication throughout their business and being able to direct that to the right people. So we found, those who are using the more sophisticated tools have coped very well. And some of those who are using the more basic tools have layered some additional tools on top. So what I mean by that is things like call reporting. So they can have clear visibility of whether calls are getting through to someone who they should be getting through to and what's happening if they're not. And then equally things like call recording. So call recording can be switched on for those people who are working from home, as well as if they're working from the office.
That's more from a compliance perspective, is it, than it is a kind of quality of service or customer care issue, do you think?
It tends to be. I mean, we've had a few, perhaps not so much in the legal space, where they put call recording on because I think they're a bit concerned about whether people are working or not, to be a really basic level. So
big trust issue.
Yeah, there's been a trust issue. I think also, like on a general, we've seen a lot of stuff around reporting where typically I think people have had a naive idea that because when they can see someone's bum on a seat in the office, they're working effectively. And when they can't see that bum on a seat in an office, they must be drinking coffee and not doing anything. And I think that's been a big change with COVID-19, and people have to get over that hurdle. The fact is, if they were sat in, like we've always said, if they're sat in the office, doesn't mean they're working. In the same way, if they're sat at home, doesn't mean they're working. And I think those who are working in the office effectively are working effectively from home. They want to work, they're motivated to work, they're accountable. all those good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the call recording has been from a compliance point of view. It also, some people are using it to enable them to be more effective internally. So if you and I are having a conversation with a prospect or a client, and I just said, actually, David, I had this really detailed conversation with Sarah. Here's the recording. Listen to the middle of it. It just makes my time more effective and makes your time more effective. So people are using it for that. And I think what we're also seeing is a trend towards people wanting to do more. So previously we talked to people about how they might, within their call handling, also handle social media inquiries, web chat, SMS, whatever it might be, a whole kind of omni, to use the dreadful phrase that we use in our sector.
Yeah.
And it's always been looked at, typically, yeah, that's interesting. Won't do anything about that. Whereas I think now there are more and more people saying, actually, how can we become more efficient? How can we actually handle this customer contact in a more effective way?
Yeah, and that brings me on to my next question, actually, which is, we've all looked at Zoom's share price and wish we bought in January or something. The option of Teams, and Microsoft put out, I think, was it a 300 user license for free to try and get people adopting that over Zoom. What have you done to help or seen law firms do with the speed at which they've adopted these new technologies that would have taken months to plan and months to roll out, and we did it in a matter of minutes, pretty much, in most law firms?
Yeah, so I think, Teams is probably the one we've had most involvement with. That's gone from, well, that's more than doubled globally to 75 million users, I think, in the space of lockdown. So as you say, it didn't need a 12-month implementation cycle. It's just been done. And where we've been working with that is that from a telephony perspective, we can embrace Teams and effectively put some plumbing in the back end, which enables the proper carrier grade telephony to happen within Teams. And there is a Microsoft Teams telephony piece, but it's a bit clunky, not particularly feature rich, and you are reliant on the Microsoft portal from a support perspective. So when you're talking about real time telephony issues, most customers don't want to be submitting a ticket on a Microsoft portal with a response time that might be 48, 72 hours. Right. But equally, those services we were talking about earlier, where we can have more impact around reporting and call recording, omni-channel type stuff, that's not yet available through Microsoft, so we can layer that on top. Okay. But I suppose on a more prosaic level, where we've seen, whether it's Zoom or Teams or any other conferencing platform, is the pressure on internet connectivity, specifically the pressure in certain locations from working from home, right, which, as we're all aware, is a postcode lottery typically. Yep. And I think that no one was prepared for the fact that all their team are going to be working from home, and therefore no one had prepared to make sure that everyone had high-speed, reliable internet connectivity in a secure manner. Yeah. So
that's absolutely key. I mean, we're a 40-person business. Predominantly, everybody's in Bristol. We probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 who live outside the city boundaries. Maybe 7. With everything, but the vast majority of Bristol city centre is Virgin Media. So decent fibre-based broadband.
Yeah.
But you can tell when it's wobbly because the Slack channel goes mad. Like, is yours out? Is mine out? Kind of thing. And then we got a couple of people who live externally to Bristol, and there's a brand called True Speed who've been going around putting in fast fibre in some of the regional villages around Bristol. Yeah. And that's been fantastic for one of our team. One of our designers who works from home is shipping files around at light speed compared to what she had before. But it's that kind of assessment that when we talk about a longer term shift to working more flexibly, and almost certainly business is getting a lot of flexible working requests, as in not times but where they work from. That's going to be a key thing, isn't it? Trying to make sure that people can get the right bandwidth nowadays. I mean, we take it as a given in the city, but
yeah,
you're northwest small town, I'm guessing it's great. But if we go to the countryside out in Cheshire, it's not so great.
Yeah, I think it's pockets. So actually, bizarrely, of our team, I'm probably the worst affected. And if I look out that window, I can see the local exchange. And it's that kind of scenario where you just don't know. You know, I can walk to the local BT exchange in 15 seconds, but the speed of my connection is worse than everyone else in my team. So we are doing things about that, which I won't bore you with. But I think the key aspect that we're working on is, and a shameless plug, we're working on something called #FasterBritain. It's not dissimilar to what you're talking about there with the guys in Bristol. And we're just looking at very, very niche, small geographies where there's not spots. As an example, very close to our office, there's an industrial estate with about 300 businesses on it, with very poorly served from an internet provision. So we're working with our partner to invest money to put full fibre throughout that park. And you know, they should benefit from not only higher speeds, but at a lower price on more flexible terms. So we're hoping that that's going to go sit well post-COVID in that type of scenario.
Yeah.
Now, and we've got four or five other projects lined up like that, but it's not. I think the key thing in terms of the general conversation we're having is, as an end user, if you've got 5 of your team who are in not spots, that unless someone's doing that kind of activity, and there are lots of firms doing that, and the DCMS, the Department for Culture, Media and something else, sport is going to invest lots of funding in rural type broadband. So it's very much about outside in, as opposed to historically they've just been putting money out for anybody who wants it. That is very targeted now about addressing those not spots.
Well, I'll give you an anchor for your pricing. So here in central Bristol, we're on the City Fibre network.
Yeah.
So we get 1 gigabit up and down, 8-to-1 contention ratio for 367 a month.
Yeah.
Which is just phenomenal. I mean, it's just, you know, the first time we put it in when we moved office 2 years ago, and my tech director said, try this. And he sent me a link to a file, which was 700 meg, and it was 7 seconds to bring this file down. That's before we put voice on it and all our other stuff, but it's just been probably the best £367 a month we spend.
Yeah, I think that's similar to what we're looking at, which would be a gig uncontended, about 280, 300.
Yeah, but going back to, you know, law firms and work from home requests, it's going to be really interesting to see if a valid reason for declining a flexible working request is your internet speed's not good enough. So until you sort that out, you know, you can't work effectively from home. I don't know. I don't know whether that's going to stack up as a valid reason.
Yeah, I think there's probably two ways to look at that, aren't there? So you would hope that lots of employers, if it's a cost-based issue, would help support that employee to address their speed issues. Yep. But if you take someone we know, Lily from Goldman Sachs, I know she lives in a location where you could throw as much money as within reason, you could throw as much money as you want at it, and you're not going to solve the problem. So it requires those projects that we're looking at, but they're, you know, 3, 6, 12 months down the line. So yeah, would you say to someone in her situation, yes, you've got to come to the office because you can't work effectively from home? I think the answer probably is yes.
Yeah. And that's the difference when we think about, you know, how technology impacts what's changed. And lots of businesses are asking themselves, you know, what are we going to bring forward from what we've learned over the last 12 weeks into the new normal? Not a phrase I use very often, but we know what you mean. And you know, there are lots of different things, and, you know, working more flexibly. You know, we always had a phrase in our business that we would use, which is, if somebody was said, you never announced you were working from home, it was you were working remotely, because the mantra is work is a thing you do, not a place you go. So whether it's a train, an airport lounge, a client's offices, the coffee bar, you know, the hotel foyer, whatever, it's not just working from home. So we always used to have that. I'm just working remotely. It's nobody's business where you're working. And I think that going forward is going to be more key for recruitment, almost certainly. I know somebody just this morning told me they're getting a new puppy and they haven't told their employer yet, because they need to do their flexible working from home request before they announce they've got a dog.
Right.
That easy for me. Just take the dog to the office. That's our policy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So besides historical voice communication, more modern video that we're doing now. And I think this is one thing that we as a business will take forward, doing more of this with our customers. What other kind of comms channels have you seen law firms start to use more of? And I'm thinking client communication apps, thinking online case tracking. I mean, I've not seen a real massive shift to that yet. It's still predominantly voice. Have you seen anything different?
Similar experience to yourself. So lots of interest in looking at alternatives and not much engagement in going further than that. So, I mean, I think the likes, we don't deal with them, but the likes of Knights have embraced a great deal of technology and embraced a way of working in terms of a kind of centralizing customer contact and how to handle that as efficiently, as effectively as possible in a positive way. What we tend to find when we're working with law firms, so this is prior to lockdown, but the same applies going forward really, is that it's a bit disjointed in terms of how customer contact is handled, and it's quite different to sectors outside of the law sector. So if you take a sector which obviously has been hammered, but kind of luxury travel, the average value of a holiday for a luxury travel firm is high, it's £15,000-20,000. The way in which they handle their customer contact, whether that be telephone, and it is quite telephone intensive, or digitally, social media, web chat, whatever it might be, they stress a huge amount of importance around the team that handle that customer contact and how it's handled and what happens if that person's not available, where does it go next. And not dissimilar to the Moneypenny type care levels that are treated. And I think what I've certainly found over the last decade or so working with law firms is there's more there's a legacy system in place, so let's get that working and let's refine that a little bit and make it a bit more efficient, but not really let's embrace really strong working practice from different sectors. So I think what might happen is that the value and the importance of customer contact post lockdown may rise to a level where actually those things have to be addressed.
And when you're talking about centralizing that, you don't necessarily, obviously in this world, you don't mean physically to one place,
systems,
but it's rather than anybody picking up the phone, and a client of ours in the Northwest, Stevenson's, have done this for years. They have a contact center, and at one point, I think they had 30 people centralized in one office. And then actually they left a small call team centralized and put everybody else back out with the service areas. But it was still centralized through that person because they were the best person at dealing with it. And I'm reminded of Professor Ian Cooper, who's been working with law firms for years, and he used to make a guarantee or offer a guarantee to say, I can come into your law firm and within 30 minutes I can improve your conversion rates. And what he would do is go in, listen to everybody taking inbound calls, and then saying, right, you three, you never answer the phone again. It all goes through Neil because he's the best person. And no surprise, the conversion rate goes up because some people, their empathy is better, their questioning is better. These may or may not be lawyers, so it's valuing different things other than their technical skills. And I think we're seeing more of that through this period, potentially.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly that kind of emotional intelligence it's got to be hugely important. If you're going to spend all the money with either individually through your marketing team or through the likes of Conscious to generate some kind of inbound lead, then someone's perceiving there's value in that inbound lead. So handle it like the value it has. And what we've seen quite frequently is a call comes in, the receptionist is under a huge amount of pressure to handle all calls. Nobody's taking any calls from within the business, so the calls come back. She's also got to make cups of tea for people in meeting rooms. She's got to answer the doorbell. She's got to do the photocopying. So her job when the call comes in is just get rid of that call somewhere. Yeah. And then that inbound lead is, who knows where it's gone.
We have an exercise that we try and do with customers. It doesn't always go very well with law firms. Is if you can work out the average spend for every matter that you open in a year, right? And then you can monitor and track how many matters you get over the lifetime of a customer. I'm using the word customer deliberately because that's the language we use. They're not clients. And you can work out the customer lifetime value. and remind everybody when they're taking that inbound call, this is £100,000 phone call that you're answering, or a £50,000 phone call. And it's all about averages. And it doesn't matter whether you say, well, we're mostly a transactional firm. That's fine, but you're still trying to do later life or whatever. Pick a number that sounds reasonable. I mean, most law firms can't. I can measure it accurately. Every year I measure it. And this year our average customer lifetime is 6.47 years. Yes, I measured it to 2 decimal points, kind of thing. So I can work out that this inbound phone call is worth £100,000 to us over that lifetime. And that's that's averages. So it could be worth more depending on the spend. I think that changes your mindset. They're not just buying a will for £500. This is a £20,000 customer phone call, which could completely change your mindset about how you handle it, I think. So.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all those horror stories of people handling calls in law firms where someone rings up and says, in an emotional state, my father's just died. Oh, good. It being the response is, and it's just really making sure that the people who are handling that call have, like you say, have the empathy and the emotional skill to handle the call really well and are available to handle the call. I think that's, again, a really basic thing, but we see it time and time again. The availability of someone who can convert that call into business, a real issue. So the call handlers are typically trying to get it through to a team, whether that's conveyancing, family, whatever it might be, and they really, really struggle to get those calls to a fee earner in that team.
Well, I'll give you a story from our world. It's probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We ran a paid advertising campaign for a family law firm for the team of the family law team over a Christmas period and into January. And at the end of January, we were doing a debrief with the customer, and they were really not very happy about the volume of leads they got through or the quality. So we were using call tracking, well, our tool of choice is Ruler Analytics, and every single call got recorded, and we could take call durations and everything else. So we took this quite personally because we thought it was an okay campaign. It wasn't the most successful thing we'd done, but they'd made a decent return. The customer not happy. So one of my team went and listened to all 122 phone calls that got generated, and something like 30% didn't get answered, and another 25% got told to call back because Neil wasn't available to speak to them. Can I take your number? Neil will call you. Please call back this afternoon when he's available. So, and we presented these stats back to the customer. They're still a customer today, and they were just horrified because they had no clue this was going on in their business because they'd never bothered going and checking what was going on. And they didn't have call recording on their phone system because we were doing it through the cloud, through Ruler Analytics, that we were able to do that.
Yeah.
But that explains why. Another example is another client of ours phoned up sometime last year, middle of the month. David, I'm really not very happy with the way, in fact, it was to Dan, not very happy with the way our SEO and PPC is going this last 2 weeks. We really haven't opened as many cases as normal. I need to know what's changed, what's going on. And we looked at the numbers, and they were down, but search volume and everything, all that was holding up, and click-through rates and everything. And we said, but this is weird because all these numbers look fine. Are we sure nothing else has changed in your business? No, the only thing that's changed is Jenny went on a holiday. Right, who's Jenny? Oh, Jenny's the lady who answers the phone. Right. So your primary phone answerer has gone on holiday and your numbers have dropped, and you think it's our fault? How does that work? Anyway, so they went away happy knowing it wasn't the campaign. So, and then I don't know what they did about training Jenny too, as we called her. So it is those kind of challenges. And like I say, and it's, whether it's, emotional intelligence, EQ, EI, what we want to call it, or just general sales skill, which is historically swearing, when we use that phrase in law firms. But that's what it's about. And when we talk to law firms and say, look, you're not selling, you're helping somebody solve a problem. Isn't that what lawyers do? They go, yeah, that's what we do. Okay, great. That's when you think about sales that way. So
yeah.
Okay, I've got one last question for you, which is everybody's trying to reduce cost, whether it's, as you said, by changes to licensing for systems or everything else. But automation comes into cost savings what's going on in the world of, you look at what Google's doing with its intelligent automation and stuff, what's going on in the world of telephony and phone systems that's going to put people out of jobs? That's the bottom line. Or
yeah, I don't know. It's going to
massively improve customer service.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to put people out of jobs. I mean, there's essentially, I liken it to Alexa. So you can have an intelligent agent, which from a telephony point of view, a customer can call in, and that intelligent agent can be programmed to handle a whole bunch of commonly asked questions. And in the world of lockdown and COVID-19, that's been incredibly useful, where lots of people have gone on to furlough, and this can take the pressure off the remaining team.
Right.
So you can program this agent to handle a whole bunch of frequently asked questions, and then if the person who's called in is not happy with that, either as a way of communicating, or you can't get the answer they're looking for, they can just escape back into normal human being. But it really is designed to say, if we can get the call volumes down into our smaller team by X%, that's a good thing. And it's not just a good thing in terms of efficiency, it also means that actually the customer's getting a response, where typically if they're going into an overburdened team, they're not getting anything. They're either getting a voicemail, no answer, or a really short response from someone who's under a huge amount of pressure.
And you're talking about things like, I need to make a payment to you, how do I do it? Or what are your office opening hours? Are you still accepting visitors? It's not, I want to get divorced, how do I go about it?
No. And there might be scenarios where there's a change in legislation. So, for example, the furlough legislation, we had a couple of accountants and business consultants use it, for example, of just saying, if your question's about furlough, we're under a huge amount of demand, go here and we'll be able to answer 70% of your queries. So, and it's not like press 1 for this, press 2 for the other. You effectively shout at it as you would do Alexa. We can even talk to it nicely and say, I want to furlough 5 people on a part-time basis. Is that possible? And providing it's been programmed into the back end saying part-time furlough, this is what we say, it will work. And the other thing is, it's not quite self-learning, but you will see which questions have been asked that haven't been able to be answered. And if obviously if there's some commonality, then you would bother to go program it to answer that question. So I think, in the world of lockdown, it's been useful where lots of people have been put on furlough, and it just provides another resource without having to bring someone back from furlough.
So in that case, the law firm would script the answer, and they'd have somebody read the answer into the intelligent assistant. Is that, or is it doing text to speach translation?
It's doing text to speech.
Okay.
And you can choose the speaker from a number of different ones, but yeah, they don't need to go in and speak themselves. And the honest answer is I don't know whether that's an option, but I'll take that away and find out. Okay. And I think, going down the line, I think it's there to again, some of those issues we talked about earlier, where the person who's responsible for handling telephone calls is under vast amounts of pressure, and they're unable to get it through to someone who can actually provide any assistance. If I'm the person who's handling the call and say, well, David, I can't get you through to Sarah, who will be able to answer this query. Can you put you through to our intelligent agent who will be able to answer some of these questions? Would you like to do that? Now, at least I haven't just automatically been shoved at an Alexa type thing. It's been announced. I said, yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. And if it works effectively, great. But there is a release mechanism from it. You can just say, put me back to reception or put me back to operator. Okay. So, it's early days, and we're seeing where it's worked really, really well is in hospitality. I mean, again, prior to lockdown, hotels were using it for a vast amount. What they found was a huge volume of inquiries coming to the front desk at a hotel, especially around airports, were what time's a shuttle bus, when does breakfast finish, all these kind of common, and rather than that go through to a busy front desk, they just went through to an agent which said, okay, the shuttle bus goes at these times. Yeah. Breakfast today finishes at blah blah blah, and it's just really understanding the frequently asked questions that don't necessarily need an expert answer.
Yeah, and I think that the way you interact with it is key, because none of us like press 1 for this and then
No.
press 2 for that. It's like, setting a voicemail on my mobile. I've memorized the keystrokes. I'm a bit older than you, but the joke when I was growing up was, could you memorize the keys you had to press into a Nokia phone to change it back from Russian when you left it open on your table or something? And your drunk friend would put it in Russian for you. So yeah, I think that's key, and it's the same thing with chatbots on websites. If you're not doing super clever AI, it needs to be taught the answers. Because the self-learning stuff does get quite expensive. We did a prototype with IBM Watson, and we just couldn't get it to do the self-learning bit. It was just going to cost a silly amount of money for implementation. Whereas here's a question, it contains this, and this is typewritten, therefore it's these answers. Just go look it up using semantics. That works extremely well. So, what about, does telephony get extended then into meeting bookings? I want to book a meeting with you. Can I do that through a phone system, or is it still old-fashioned? Go to a web page and do it that way.
Well, you can develop the automation behind it. So it's not the same example, but as an example, for payments, one of the areas that this intelligent agent is having a lot of success is, it will, if I'm speaking to you and we get to the point in the conversation where we're about to do a transaction and you want my card details, there's obviously lots of issues there around PCI.
Yeah.
You would then just say, I'm going to put you through to our PCI compliant intelligent agent, and you hand the call off. I do the transaction. You've not heard any of it. It's all completely secure, and it transfers the call back to you once that's happened. So I'll go away and find out. I assume a similar thing could happen. You could say, back it off to a meeting booking system, and it would come back and say, yes, your meeting's booked with David at 12:30 on Tuesday.
Yeah. There's a great video that does the rounds of the Google Assistant doing that, booking a hairdressing appointment. I think you've probably seen it. And it is amazing. It's like the first bit was when he was talking to the Google Assistant, and I just had it with Siri this morning when I used Siri for something, and Siri went, which you do when you say, just give me a minute, you go, you just acknowledge the fact, and it is just spooky, absolutely spooky, the way this stuff will work. And that's from a search engine perspective, not telephony.
Well, yeah, completely as an aside, it's also interesting, as you know, I've got my 2 boys, and Henrik, the youngest, 7, he just loves talking to Alexa. It's got and she has got lots. They have got a lot better. So when the kids will ask questions like, what's your favorite color? And it was, I don't have a favorite color. And it's now, I really like the color green. Or, it's really good.
Well, maybe when he's old enough, you can let him watch that Ex Machina or Ex Machina or whatever that film was called. Which, it's a very lifelike robot. Well, Neil, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you this morning. What I'll do is I'll put your contact details at the end of the video when I put it online. And if people do want to get in touch from law firms, talk about how telephony and cloud comms and all those things can improve their client service and almost certainly improve what their staff are doing, then hopefully you'll get some take up from that. So thank you for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Pleasure.